Y'all ever think about what you don't know about a house before you move in? Not the leaky pipes, not the bad wiring, not the weird neighbor down the road. I mean the things that were already there before you ever turned the key. A guy named Daniel bought a farmhouse out in the country because his wife Sarah wanted space for a garden and their son Tyler needed room to just be a kid. 5 acres, an old barn, fresh air, everything a growing family could want. They unpacked, settled in, started building their routine. Mornings felt good, evenings felt peaceful. Daniel said for the first couple weeks, it really did feel like the right move. Then, the food started disappearing. Milk, bread, apples from the bowl on the counter. At first, they just figured one of them was forgetting, blamed each other, laughed it off, no big deal. Then, Daniel noticed the back door was unlocked. He remembered locking it. He always locked it, but there it was, unlocked, like it had never been touched. A few nights later, Daniel woke up around 3 a.m. Footsteps, slow, heavy, coming from the basement directly below him. He grabbed a flashlight, went downstairs, and found the crawl space door slightly open. He called out into the dark. No answer. Next morning, there were muddy footprints across the basement floor, bigger than his. Nobody else in that house wore shoes that size. Someone had been inside their home. Daniel installed new locks immediately, reinforced every entry point he could find, but the food kept disappearing. So he did what any rational person does when they can't explain something. He set up a camera in the kitchen, pointed straight at the fridge, and waited. The next morning, he sat down and watched the footage. At 2 a.m. on the recording, a man crawled out of the basement. He moved like he had done it 100 times before, like he knew every creak in every floorboard. He walked straight to the fridge, took food, then went back down into that basement without turning on a single light. Sarah went pale when she watched it. She wanted to call the police right then and there, but Daniel told her to wait one more night. He had a plan. That night, he stayed awake, sitting in the dark kitchen, waiting. Around 2:30 a.m., the basement door creaked open. The man came up again. Daniel hit the lights. Stop right there. He froze, thin, dirty, beard grown out wild, eyes blinking against the sudden light like someone who genuinely hadn't seen daylight in weeks. "I didn't mean to scare anybody," he said. "The old owner, he let me stay down there." Daniel told him it wasn't his house anymore. The man needed to leave. The man stepped closer instead. "I fix things," he said. "I watch your property. I only take a little food, that's all." And then Sarah came into the hallway, Tyler right behind her, rubbing his eyes, half asleep, just a little kid wondering what all the noise was about. The man looked at Tyler and said quietly, "I know your routines. I've been under your floor this whole time."
Daniel said something shifted in that moment that he can't fully explain. Hearing those words with his son standing right there, it wasn't just fear, it was something colder than fear. He told the man to leave. The man reached into his pocket. Tyler shouted, "Dad!" Daniel grabbed a chair. The man pulled out a flashlight. It was nothing. "I can disappear again," he said. "You'll never feel safe here." Daniel lied, told him police were already on the way. He backed away slowly, stopped at the top of the basement stairs, looked around the house one last time. "You didn't just buy a house," he said. "You bought my home too." Then he ran.
Police came, searched the crawl space thoroughly. Sleeping bag, food wrappers going back weeks, personal belongings, and a notebook full of handwritten notes about Daniel's family, their schedule, when they woke up, when they left the house, when the lights went out at night, weeks' worth of observations written in careful, neat handwriting by a man living under their floor. Daniel and Sarah sold the house 2 months later. Couldn't stay. Couldn't look at those floorboards without thinking about what had been breathing beneath them every night. They moved somewhere new, started over. But Daniel told me, even now, years later, in a completely different house, in a completely different town, he still checks the locks twice. Every single night.
All right, story 1 was under the floor. Story 2 was above the ceiling. A woman named Laura moved into an old farmhouse last spring while her husband was away for work. Temporary situation, just her alone in this big old place for a few weeks until he got back. She figured, you know what, it'll be kind of nice actually. Some quiet time, some space, get settled before he arrives. And at first, it really did feel peaceful. Old house charm, big windows, good light in the mornings. She unpacked, got comfortable, started making the place feel like home. But the quiet felt different after the first couple of nights. Not peaceful quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that has weight to it, like the house was holding something back. Then she noticed the food, milk lower than she remembered, bread disappearing faster than she was eating it. She figured maybe she was just tired, maybe she was miscounting, told herself it was nothing. Then the footsteps started. At night, above her bedroom, footsteps, slow, careful, like someone pacing. The attic. She checked it the first time and found nothing. Old houses make noise, pipes expand, wood shifts. She told herself that's all it was and went back to bed. But the next morning, she found a food wrapper in the hallway, one she didn't recognize, something she had never bought, just sitting there on the floor like it had always been there. So she checked the attic again. This time she climbed all the way up, really looked around, got into the corners, pushed past the old boxes stacked near the hatch. And that's when she saw it. Blankets, folded neatly in the corner. A small portable stove, food, canned goods, wrappers, an open bag of crackers. Someone had been living up there, above her bedroom, while she slept, night after night after night. Lara climbed back down immediately, called the police, told them what she found. They said they were on their way. Stay on the line. Stay stay calm. She stood in the hallway, phone pressed to her ear, waiting, listening to the dispatcher's voice telling her everything was going to be fine. And then she heard the attic hatch creak open above her. Footsteps coming down. A man stepped into the hallway. She had never seen him before in her life. Middle-aged, weathered, looked like someone who had been living rough for a long time. And in his right hand, one of her kitchen knives. Lara did not run. She kept her distance, kept her voice steady, told him the police were already on their way. He stared at her for a long moment, then said, "This was my place before you moved in." Like that explained everything. Like that made it okay. Like she was the one who didn't belong there. They stood there in that hallway for what felt like a very long time. Laura not moving, the man holding that knife down at his side. She told him again, "The police are coming. They are almost here. You need to leave right now." He looked around the hallway like he was taking one last look at a place he wasn't ready to give up. Then he slowly, very slowly, bent down and placed the knife on the floor, walked to the front door, opened it, and left. Police arrived minutes later. They found him nearby and took him in. Confirmed he had been living in that attic, by all evidence, for weeks, watching Laura's movements through the gap around the hatch, learning her schedule, knowing exactly when she was asleep. The entire time she thought she was alone in that house. She wasn't even close.
Laura still lives in that house. She stayed, fixed the attic hatch, changed every lock, had the whole property swept by police twice. She stayed because leaving felt like letting him win. But she told me, some nights, when the house gets too quiet, she still finds herself lying in bed, staring up at the ceiling. 2 stories, both inside houses, both about people who were already there before anyone moved in. Story 3 takes us somewhere bigger, out in the open, under a wide sky near the Utah border, where there are no walls between you and whatever is out there. A man named Marcus bought a piece of raw land out near the Utah border to start fresh. No neighbors, no noise, no one telling him what to do with his days. Just open land and silence, and the kind of freedom that's hard to find anywhere near a city. He set up his camper, started planning. Mornings felt good out there. Coffee in the cold air, big sky above him, room to breathe. He said for the first week, it felt exactly like what he had been chasing. Then he met a guy named Wade. Older guy, said he lived nearby, stopped by to introduce himself, seemed helpful enough, friendly even, offered to show Marcus around the area. Marcus figured, decent neighbor, nothing unusual. But after a few weeks, things started feeling strange.
Marcus started noticing his truck moved. Not much, just slightly different from where he'd parked it. His equipment shifted, tools not where he'd left them, like someone was moving through his property when he wasn't looking. Testing things, checking what was there, learning the layout. He mentioned it to Wade. Wade shrugged it off, said animals out there were notorious for getting into things, could be anything. Marcus wanted to believe that, but then one night Marcus heard footsteps outside his camper, slow and deliberate on the dry ground. He looked out. Wade was standing there, in the dark, just watching, not approaching, not calling out, just standing there in the dark at the edge of Marcus's property, completely still, like he had every right to be there at midnight, staring at a man's home. After that night, things escalated fast. Wade started acting like the land was still his, like Marcus buying it legally meant nothing, like some previous claim existed that no deed could erase. He'd show up uninvited, make comments about the property, reference things that happened there years ago, like Marcus was the one who didn't understand the situation. Marcus started locking everything, kept his phone charged and close, stopped sleeping easy.
Then one night, Wade came back. But this time, he wasn't just watching. He had a rifle. Marcus heard him at the shed out back, trying to force the door. He grabbed his phone and called the sheriff's department as quietly as he possibly could. Wade heard him. A shot fired into the air, then Wade's voice, loud and certain, telling Marcus to come outside. Marcus didn't move, didn't respond. He stayed low and waited. The moment he saw an opening, he moved, out the back, into the dark, drove straight through the desert night until he hit a road he recognized and found police. They caught Wade later that night, and what they found when they looked into him. He had been tracking Marcus's routine for weeks, writing it down, keeping notes on when Marcus left, when he came back, what time the lights went out. He genuinely believed that land still belonged to him, that Marcus had no right to be there, that eventually, if he pushed hard enough, Marcus would just leave.
Marcus didn't go back, packed what he could, and left. That land he'd bought to start fresh, he sold it. Couldn't look at it the same way anymore. He told me later, the scariest part wasn't the rifle, wasn't even Wade standing in the dark at midnight. It was the notes. Finding out someone had been that methodical, that patient, that certain. Because out there, near the Utah border, there are no walls between you and whoever decides you don't belong on your own land. No neighbors to hear anything, no one driving past, no one who would notice if things went wrong. Just open land and silence. And the guy who was already there before you ever arrived.